Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. Welcome to Workforce Wednesday and happy Manufacturers Month. We're happy you are joining us today. As we settle in, please click on the chat box to share where you are joining us from. We'd also like to hear about how you're preparing for and retaining a diverse workforce. So please share that in the chat line.
Okay, so I just want to welcome everyone again to Workforce Wednesdays. My name is Jacqueline Buck, and I'm the Director of Workforce Strategy at the Department of Employment and Economic Development. Workforce Wednesdays is a networking series that focuses on sharing best practices and workforce strategies. And it's led by our 6-member workforce strategy team. So if we can just take a look at the next slide. Our team works with employers throughout the state on developing innovative workforce solutions that focus on talent attraction and talent retention. Our events are always the first Wednesday of every month from 11 to 12 with an unplugged session that's a question and answer from 12 to 12:30 in which attendees can actually unmute and ask questions of our presenters and our workforce strategy consultants. Today's topic is going to be on diversifying your workforce, and I'm going to turn it over to Della Ludwig, our workforce strategy consultant for the Central Region, who is leading today's event.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Jackie. At today's webinar, we're going to hear from a panel of experts from the manufacturing industry on benefits and challenges in diversifying their workplace. Some of the initiatives that they're leading, and then we'll also have a question and answer session. Although we're talking directly with manufacturers today, they'll be sharing ideas that can be carried over into any industry. We'll be taking audience questions throughout the presentation, so please make sure to use the chat box to share your ideas and questions. At 12 noon, we'll start our unplugged session, like Jackie had mentioned, where we can turn on our microphones and videos and you can personally join us. Our guests today include Deeds Commissioner Steve Grove, President and owner of Felling Trailers in Sauk Center and Litchfield, Brenda Jennison, and President of Midwest Industrial Tool Grinding, also known as Mickey, from Hutchinson, Eric Lipke, and the Director of Employee Experience at American Food Groups in Long Prairie, Tammy Barber. Thank you so much for joining us. Commissioner Grove, would you like to lead us off in a discussion today about manufacturing in Minnesota?
Great, thanks, Stella. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Steve Grove here. Special thanks to Brenda, Eric, and Tammy for joining us for this panel, and for all of you for taking some time with us for Workforce Wednesdays. This is an important Workforce Wednesday because the governor has declared October Manufacturing Month, and for good reason. This is one of the most powerful and important industries in our entire state. Over $50 billion of Minnesota's GDP every year comes from the manufacturing industry, leaders of which you'll hear from today. And the jobs manufacturing are great jobs, as we know. They pay on average $70,000 a year. That's 10 to 15% higher than the average wage in our state. There are over 8,000 manufacturers making a wide range of products across our economy. But we know also that the industry desperately needs to diversify for a whole host of reasons, the most pressing of which is that our labor shortages in Minnesota are a very real challenge right now. And as I talk to manufacturers across the state, I hear this again and again, finding workers is really challenging. And we need to, as an industry and as a community, be looking into new pools of talent and new candidates for jobs manufacturing to help grow our workforce. And we know that generally in manufacturing, the way that our numbers play out for diversity sort of under indexes where the state's at. So just to kind of break that down for everybody here, you know, in manufacturing right now, it's 70% male and 30% female. So you've got this gender challenge there. And I think that's changing by the day, but needs to continue to accelerate. You'll hear about that from our panelists. And the manufacturing industry is also predominantly white. 83% of the workforce in manufacturing in our state is white. 9.5% identify as Asian, 5.4% identify as Black, 0.6% is American Indian, 1.4% are 2 or more races, and 7.6% identify as Latino. So when you compare those to sort of the state's demography writ large, there's a mismatch and there's an imbalance. And That's important for a whole host of reasons. Again, these are good jobs. These are good family sustaining wage jobs. We face pervasive income gaps in our state, and so closing those gaps through this type of hiring practice is helpful. But it's also important because this is where our growth is coming from. In the next 20 years, we see 61.4% increase in our populations from people of color in the state, and we predict a 1.6% decrease in white residents during that same time. So Minnesota is changing rapidly. The demography is shifting considerably, and as workforce experts and industry leaders on this call, we know that diversifying our workforce and getting that right is something that's in everyone's best interest. And that's where we see DEED playing a unique role. We want to be, as best we possibly can, a bridge between industry and workers and try to create these pathways, these pipelines, moments like this where we can amplify the opportunity in these industries as a core part of our mission as the state's workforce development agency. So we're thrilled to be holding this summit and this panel today, especially during Manufacturing Month, which is so critical. You know, the governor believes very deeply in manufacturing as a core industry for our state. And one of the things that he and I talk a lot about, and we talk about with leaders that you're hearing from on this call, is that perceptions around what exactly a job in manufacturing is are very different today than maybe they once were. And I think there's still some people who think of manufacturing jobs as dirty or unpleasant or physically laborious or incredibly challenging. And while they may be incredibly challenging, these days it's for the right reason, because manufacturing jobs today are high-tech jobs. If you go to a place like Felling Trailers, we'll hear from Brenda in a bit, they have purchased and are integrating extraordinary automation into their production lines that make these jobs really fascinating. They up-level the skill sets needed to do them, and they, of course, increase efficiency and productivity considerably. For example, if you're welding a trailer with an automated technology. So that phenomenon is happening at factory floors across the state. Our department is trying very hard through grant programs and other funding mechanisms to help smaller manufacturers in particular automate more quickly so they can up-level those jobs. It makes those jobs more attractive and frankly just makes the manufacturers more prosperous. And so we have programs that are focused very much on automation growth, all in the name of better jobs. And of course, on connecting workforce pools with manufacturers at a very critical time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The workforce shortages we face in this state right now are fundamentally challenging. And if we don't solve for them, if we don't figure out how to provide workers for our businesses and close these gaps, it's going to significantly curtail our economic growth. There's just no other way to put it. The most pressing economic development challenge we have right now is workforce. And there's a whole host of reasons why that is, and a whole host of strategies that you need to fix it, from childcare to worker safety to wages and what have you. But ultimately, it's also about shining a light on where the best jobs are. And when you look at the top 30 occupations in demand, when you look at the jobs that have high salaries, opportunity, and real paths for career growth, you can't look at an industry that's more compelling than manufacturing. And that's why this month is just so important to us. It's so important to us to have these panelists here today to share their perspective. They are the experts on this. We are just happy to hold this forum for them, and I'm just honored to be alongside all of them here and looking forward to this conversation proceeding. And just thank you all for taking time to join us today. This is a really, really key priority for us as a state. So I'll pause there. I have a couple minutes here that I'd love to ask any questions that you might have as viewers. You can either put them in the chat, or Del, I'll turn it to you if you want to moderate any questions that come in. But again, thanks everyone for joining us and looking forward to the panel.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner. We'll keep an eye on any questions that anybody has out there, specifically to manufacturing or just in recruiting and retaining in general. Everybody's being shy, Commissioner.
Well, I know we're just getting warmed up, and our panelists are far more interesting than I am, so I hope that you can save your best questions for them.
Sounds great.
But I also would just point to our team here too, and before I wrap, I think with Della and Jackie and Jessica and others on the team, I mean, these leaders of our agency are here for the sole purpose of trying to make these connections between workers and manufacturers. So we really are prioritizing that as a core part of our efforts in the coming year.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner. We really appreciate your time and energy.
Thanks,
on this
everybody.
Project.
Talk to you soon. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Excellent. Thank you. As we move forward, I now want to give each of our panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves. We have Brenda Jennison from Felling Trailers. We have Eric Lipke from Mickey, and we have Tammy Barber from American Foods Group. So at this time, I'm just going to ask each of them to do a small introduction about themselves and their organization and some of the work that they have done or intend to do around diversifying their workforce. Can each of you give us a brief overview of yourself, your organization, and the work that you are doing? We'll start with you, Brenda.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Brenda Felling Jennison. I am co-owner with my sister Bonnie Rajenovich of Felling Trailers. We are a second-generation trailer manufacturing company, started in 1974 by our parents, Merle and Kathy Felling. We have 2 locations now. Sauk Center, Minnesota is where our headquarters are. And then we also have a location that we expanded in 2012, and that is just an hour south of us in Litchfield, Minnesota. And then we actually acquired Larson Cable Trailers in Huron, South Dakota at the end of May of this year. So lots of fun things going on where we manufacture trailers for commercial and industrial use, anything from a small skid steer trailer all the way up to a large excavator. We build it. And one thing that we do that some of our competitors do not is that we customize our trailers so we can build it to our customer specifications.
Wonderful. Brenda, how many employees do you have at your locations?
So when Merle and Kathy purchased, it was just a small welding shop at the time in 1974. There were 4 people, 2 of them being each other. We were up to 300 team members before COVID hit. We did not lay anyone off. We had other people that quit for various reasons, health, etc. Maybe they moved, and we are actually down to 255 now. So if we had the opportunity, we would hire 60 people tomorrow. And then once we got them onboarded, we could hire another 50.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brenda. Eric, we'll turn it over to you on doing an introduction.
Good morning. Eric Lipke here with MITGI. We are a carbide cutting tool company. We are about an hour and a half west of the Twin Cities in Hutchinson. And I guess a little bit about us. The tools we make are used in the medical industry, aerospace, automotive, R&D kind of projects. We make a lot of very tight tolerance tooling, real precision kind of tooling, and a lot of custom tooling. And our customers rely on us for short lead times, for consistency, quality, responsive service has been a big part of it. We've been in business for almost 30 years. We began in 1993. We've had a lot of rapid growth in the last 10 to 12 years. Our community, I believe, is about a third manufacturing in Hutchinson and McLeod County. So manufacturing does play a big role in the community. It's a focus for a lot of different areas, including EDA, Chamber of Commerce, Ridgewater Technical College, our high school here in Hutchinson. I would say our most impactful workforce campaigns have centered around our local community and the partnerships with most significantly the high school and Tiger Paths, and certainly Ridgewater School. I think what's unique, or what I think has been real successful here in Hutchinson with workforce development, is the teamwork that we've seen with EDA, Chamber of Commerce, high school, technical school, and businesses all working together to provide internships for students, tours for students, and it's something that's been embraced by every part of the community, and it's been going on for a number of years. So it keeps evolving, changing, maturing, getting better. It's been a real nice way for us to bring new people in and keep up with our demands. Honestly, without it, I think we would be in a real serious bit of trouble. Nearly half of our new people come from the Hutchinson Tiger Paths program at the high school. So it has really made a difference to us, and it has also changed the demographics of our workforce in quite a different way. We certainly have a much younger workforce because of the high school student influence. So that's probably been our biggest change.
Wonderful. Thanks, Eric. And we'll talk a little bit more about Tiger Path in the future questions and discuss how those career pathways have helped you. So thank you. Tammy, Tammy is from American Foods Group, and we'll turn it over to you.
Good morning. Yeah, my name is Tammy Barber. So I work for American Foods Group. That is the corporate environment to Long Prairie Packing in Long Prairie, Minnesota. So that's one of our facilities across the United States. It's our second largest facility. We employ over 600 employees at that plant. I was the HR manager at that plant for about 10 years. So I'm really familiar with the facility. My job title now is like the fluffiest job title ever, and it's so awesome because I get to touch candidates from job seeker stage to end of cycle, right? So we're building the programs that we have at Long Prairie Packing to be successful in recruiting a diverse workforce, and specifically like outside of the state of Minnesota, and kind of intentionally being a company that is an importer of employees versus the state being a net exporter of employees is a really important thing. And that's the one thing that makes us successful.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We're going to go to our second question now. So what are some of the things businesses can do to assist efforts in talent attraction, resident recruitment, and to become more welcoming in their workplace and their community? I know we talk a lot about larger companies, but we also want to see what you guys are doing as well. And Brenda, we'll start with you.
Sure. To be welcoming, we're generally in Minnesota nice, right? Everyone's very friendly and I think welcoming by nature. However, it's, I think, offering different avenues as our an outstate Minnesota, we're right smack dab pretty much in the middle of Minnesota, just 20 minutes from Long Prairie and Tammy. And so our demographic looks a lot different than Hutchinson, maybe even, or the metropolitan area. And so some of the things we've been doing for quite a few years actually is advertising in diverse publications. We also have a bilingual admin on staff to help put some people who are multilingual at ease and more comfortable so that they can speak in whatever language is most comfortable to them. So trying to continually investigate what we can do to be welcoming to everyone and inclusive to everyone that makes up our community and the surrounding communities, because we do have people who commute from an hour away, as well as those that live right here in our community. So those are the types of things that we're actively engaged in and trying to become better at.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brenda. Eric, do you want to talk a little bit more about Tiger Path and some of the other things you're doing for diversity?
Sure. I think probably as far as something that's been impactful with students is having student parent tours, getting the parents an opportunity to come and see what the environment is in manufacturing is really been a big positive for us. Particularly, I guess one of the diversity pieces we see here is a goal of getting more women in the workforce and in manufacturing, and we continue to work towards that. And I think it's maybe even more important when you have a junior or senior coming for an internship and then potentially a job. It's kind of important for mom and dad to come and take a look and see what's my daughter doing, because I'm not sure manufacturing is where she should be. And when they get to see the clean environment and the different manufacturing that's happening today compared to 20 and 40 years ago, I think it puts parents' minds at ease and it helps a lot. So I know we've had a lot of success that way. And with Tiger Paths, I'd be happy to talk for hours about Tiger Paths, but we as a group in Hutchinson are super supportive of the program. We offer internships all the time to it. There's a YST program associated with it that gives some grant dollars to the school for our interns so that they can have a position supported that actually kind of takes care of Tiger Paths and that relationship between the businesses and the school, and promotes that and keeps that as a focus and a forefront. And as I said, we hire a lot of people through that program.
Excellent. And we'll put the link up there too for Tiger Path Academies, just so everybody can see what that program is. It's been very successful with the school district, working with manufacturers and other employers in the community and building those career pathways prior to graduation at the school. So thank you very much, Eric. Tammy, do you want to talk about some of the things that you're doing in your community?
Sure. So some of the ways that we have like specifically diversified the workforce is something like what Brenda had mentioned. We have the majority of our admin and our leadership. All of us are pretty much bilingual. I'm fluent, read, write, speak. So as far as recruiting, when we are going into other larger cities or somewhere here in Minnesota or outside of the states, we have that capability. But regardless, if you're a large employer, you can put programs together and you can have temporary housing and you can have transportation, you can have all that, right? But when you're a smaller employer, just really being intentional maybe about where you recruit within kind of the local area and looking at where wages are maybe lower than what you have in your manufacturing industry, or where people don't have as much opportunity for job advancement, and you do, just really kind of scoping out the areas within the state is a really good plan.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So our third question is, retention is key in 2021. Replacing great employees is expensive, and keeping your best and brightest engaged can be challenging at times. So what talent retention strategies have you implemented that are making a difference in your company? Brenda?
Well, being a family-owned business, we keep a lot of the family feel, if you will, that my parents started decades ago. So for instance, everyone continues to get a turkey before Thanksgiving. We do safety lunch incentives to just show appreciation for people keeping safety top of mind. We do an annual labor market analysis. So we use an outside consultant who looks at actually the St. Cloud area, which is about 45 minutes from us, to make sure that we're very competitive in our market in pay. In addition to that, community involvement and stewardship has always been big. Bonnie and I, growing up, were always taught to give back, and we really do follow through with that in the community and with our business. And so we do 4 times a year, we do youth weld camps. So kids, boys, girls, and we market to both ages 12 to 18 can come on site, and they get to learn, just be introduced to the basic manufacturing safety processes and then basic weld. And we've had great success with kids really enjoying it and never thinking like, oh, yeah, I should take weld classes at school. We partner with our local high school. We have a class that we're going on our 5th year with them now, where kids come on site, and with their industrial technology teacher and our certified weld inspector, they have a curriculum for the first half of the year in a weld lab. And then the second half, they get a paid internship on our manufacturing floor. And then our hope is that they enjoy it and they work longer than just that last period of the school day. And that actually has been very successful for us. A lot of them did a swing shift. Obviously, school comes first, and so we make sure that they get home in a decent hour. But a lot of them continued employment into the summer, and now again the next year. So really trying to be and stay involved in the community, so that our team members really see that we do value them and appreciate being involved and on the team of a company that makes those investments. We don't charge anything to the school or for those weld camps. We just feel it's really important to introduce young people to it. I just saw a question in the chat there, Della, sorry, about if we have any issues with the youth program regarding liability. No, for those weld camps, we offer it through our community education, and our community education director sets it up. So we don't do any of the registration. The school does charge a small fee, like $7. Oftentimes it's been reimbursed to the student, especially if that's a challenge for them. But the school does cover them under their insurance for that.
Wonderful. And we'll talk about youth skills training in the pipeline program as well in a few minutes and discuss the work that you're doing there, Brenda, and then also Eric, what you're doing. But Eric, do you want to talk about how you are retaining your employees at this time?
Sure. It's tough because a lot of people are competing for all of our employees, of course, but we focus a lot on our culture. We want to make it, I think, maybe to a little bit about what Brenda is saying with the family culture. We've tried to create more of a work family where people enjoy their time together, enjoy activities in and out of work. We try and have company meals, company outings. We had an outing this past Friday at the brewery with a food truck, and just letting people get together outside of work, do some things together, and build those relationships and those bonds. And I think that's been a help. We also add a lot of technology, and we make the workplace fun and continue advancing it. So, and I guess we don't necessarily bring in outside people to like add robotics into some of our operations. We take some of our people that have some natural talents in those areas and promote them doing it and them getting involved in it. And it might take a little longer sometimes, but then there's a lot of buy-in to having robotics take over an operation in our manufacturing. And then the real good benefit that we've discovered is long-term, the robots always need recalibration or something isn't working quite right. And because we didn't outsource it and we spent the time up front, our team can then go about fixing things and keeping them running. So I guess our main focus is that culture and keeping the workplace interesting and advancing all the time and kind of fun for people.
Eric, you do a really cool way of interviewing as well, where they have the opportunity to go on the floor during that interview process. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. What we do with our interviewing process, it took us a little while with our insurance company, actually, but we finally got buy-in by paying people to be out on our floor. But we do an interview, and once somebody's gone through the interview, if we feel like they're a good candidate, we have a job shadowing program. So we basically invite that individual to come back at a day that fits their schedule, and we run 24/5, so any time fits, around different people's work schedules. And then we have them work with our team member for 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever they want, and feel they need to make a good decision. And I guess it's twofold. We really want people coming in to get a hands-on feel. I can be in an interview, or our human resources people can be in interviews and talk about the company all day, but really the people learn the most when they get to work with somebody out on the floor doing what they would be doing, seeing what that means, and it allows people to make a really informed decision. And on the flip side, our people on the floor work as a team on a lot of different things, and there's a lot of teamwork that goes on. So they also get to experience and see if the individual we're looking at hiring fits our culture and our team kind of teamwork activity. So it's really nice. And as I said, the insurance piece was hard for us to get through, but we did get through it by being able to basically hire them for a job shadow, and that worked out well. And so we've been doing that for a number of years, and it's worked out well. I mean, nobody wants to have somebody working that doesn't want to be there because they've accepted a job and now they have to be in that environment till they find something else. That's not fun for them, and it's never fun to train people that aren't going to be around for a long time too. So it's helped us a lot. I think we see a significantly less number of people that are leaving after like a 60 or 90-day time frame. So that's helped that. We used to have that happen, I would say, more often than I liked.
Mm-hmm. That's a great great piece and very informational for other employers as well as another way of hiring and recruiting. Tammy, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing for retention.
Sure. Really, one of the biggest things we've just implemented in the last 3-4 months now, we started a home buyer program. So the company is actually helping employees purchase their first homes. So that does keep people in the area and there within the facility. Other retention things that we have done as far as specific to diversity, equity, and inclusion is not only having like the bilingual workforce and us being able to include people, but a lot of leadership development. So you can recruit all the people you want, but if they don't feel like that's the place for them, they're gonna leave, right? So you can bring them in, and every new hire comes into work motivated and they're excited and they want to be there and they're like, wow, I got this job, and they tell their family. And if you pass that honeymoon period and then you hit that lull, if you can't identify where that lull is and why that lull is happening, you can't keep them. So leadership development is a really big deal. Training people on like unconscious bias, for example. Last week, we had our annual HR conference for the first time since COVID, and we had a speaker come in and speak specific to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we just finished a full American Foods Group DEI program that we're going to start rolling out in the next few years. So it's going to be a slow rollout. But Dr. Jermaine Davis came and spoke to us. He's out of the cities. I'm sure some people here have seen him speak. He has a book. What's it called? Be Diversity Competent, I think. And the last chapter in that book is all like tangible, good stuff for leaders in the organization, but then, you know, floor leaders and people that are actually working with your diverse groups of employees. That's that like touch point and what to do and how to understand. And so I highly recommend the book, but I highly recommend leadership development, just completely surrounding diversity. And that's something that we've been doing for quite a few years.
That's a really good point, Tammy, because a lot of times people move on up through the company, but they really haven't had that leadership or that management training. So it's kind of hard to just expect people to go ahead and go into that position, but not really understand what that means. So that's a very good point, Tammy. Wonderful. One of the questions that came up is what are we referring to when we're talking to bilingual? In our area, we have quite a few different pockets of different ethnicities, and Tammy, I'll allow you to answer that question, and then I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So,
what do you want me to answer?
With bilingual? What different languages do you have spoken at your location?
At our facility? Well, we are about, Commissioner mentioned this morning that like 80% or 83% of manufacturers are white, and white is our minority. We are over 70% minority. I would say the majority of those are Hispanic. Spanish English. So that can be Hispanic from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, different areas. But we also have, as far as other languages, Karen, Karenese, Burmese, Thai, because anybody that we have out of refugee camps or like the Karen organization in Minnesota down in the cities, some of those, there are different dialects, right? They're similar, but they're not. But they grew up in refugee camps in Thailand, so there's a little bit of Thai. We have a very small Somali population, but most of them speak English also. And I think that's it for language specific to long prairie packing. Our other facilities, we do have one that has a lot of Congolese, so they're French speaking. So other plants in other states have different opportunities.
Excellent. Brenda and Eric, do you have any bilingual? And if so, what languages or ethnicities are those?
I just responded to Chip's question too. In Sauk Center in Litchfield in our facilities, it's English and Spanish.
Wonderful. And closer to this, oh, go ahead, Eric.
We do not have any bilingual.
At this time. We're working on that. St. Cloud area, Wilmer area also has a large population of Somali. So that's another language that is pretty well known in central Minnesota, as well as Hispanic. So great. Thank you very much. We have Dan Solomon joining us today too. He is from the Department of Labor and Industry, and he works with the dual pipeline training opportunities. It's similar to, there's the program, the Youth Skills Training, which is for the youth and is developed like Eric had talked about. And it's something we're working with Brenda in the Sauk Center School District as well in developing those pathways. But Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you for a little bit, and you can talk a little bit about your programs and how people can get a hold of you.
Oh, well, thanks so much, Della. I really appreciate the opportunity to just join and just share very briefly. So as Della mentioned, I'm with the Dual Training Pipeline Initiative at Department of Labor and Industry. We are gateway to apprenticeship, so very similar to a formal registered apprenticeship, which we also run at our agency as well. And so it's pairing on-the-job training with some formal education. Typically, that's at a community college, but it doesn't have to be. But it should result in the completion of a degree, a certificate, or an industry-recognized credential. And it's really that earn and learn model of training. And so, at a time where student debt is as high as it is, this approach could be both a really great benefit for manufacturers to, use it for recruitment, for retention, and for really incorporating it into their diversity strategies as well, because, it's a great way to bring in talent who, as all of us really, to be candid, could use that help or assistance in being able to afford higher education, and that earn and learn model really helps and fosters that. The other thing that really connects that work to the effort and the subject you all are talking about today is on-the-job training so often has a mentorship kind of component, and some job shadowing and really that cohort kind of model. And as you think about how you can expand your efforts to really show how your company embraces diversity and inclusion, that kind of approach through mentoring and job shadowing and on the job training can work really well with that. So I just really appreciate, Della, the opportunity to share just a little bit about Pipeline. I know it was also mentioned with the Hutchinson Tiger Path. Our agency also runs the Youth Skills Training Program. And so, if we could ever be of assistance, through, like I said, Pipeline, Youth Skills Training, or registered apprenticeship, please feel free to reach out to myself or Della or any of the wonderful workforce strategy consultants who are all on today and are so great and being a help and a partner in this work.
Thanks, Dan. And you have an upcoming pipeline training presentation, is that correct?
Yeah, I can. Thanks for bringing that up. I can put a link in the chat if that's helpful. We've got. It looks like Jessica just did it. She beat me to it. So thanks, Jessica. Yes, tomorrow morning, for anyone who's interested, we'll have kind of an overview of these three. Again, these they're all these employment-based kind of approaches to training, and we'll also have some manufacturers who are joining us as well to talk about their experiences with these programs. So yeah, thanks for letting me just say a few words and appreciate all the good work that you all are doing.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Dan. I really appreciate it. Again, they have many different programs, including apprenticeships, the youth skills training, and then they do the dual pipeline program as well. So thanks again, Dan. Back to our presenters, just wanted to follow up with you and just see, what's one of the things that you would want people to take away from this discussion today? And I'll start with you, Brenda.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, obviously we don't have all the answers, or I wouldn't be still trying to hire an additional 50 to 60 people tomorrow if I could. We're trying all sorts of methods. I know there was a question about where do we advertise? I mean, everywhere. You have, generational differences too. It seems like the print newspaper ads, older people still like to look through that. Our younger people, not so much. So of course there's social media and even that is changing, like TikTok and Snapchat and all these other social media apps that I don't even want my kids on, much less. So making sure that we understand how those social media mediums work and how to reach potential workforce there. I would like to say too, I think housing is an issue. Everywhere, not just in our local communities, but that obviously is a barrier. And then in addition to that, I really think we need some smart immigration reform. At the end of the day, we've got, thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people that would love to live in the United States. And I just really think we need to do a better job with our immigration, and it would be a win-win. There's so many jobs available here in the United States, and we've got people who really want to make a life here in America. And I think we got to do something.
Wonderful. Thanks, Brenda. Eric?
I guess the one thing is hard to pin down, but I think the biggest thing that has helped us definitely with workforce has been the Tiger Paths program, and that has been very community based. So I think the thing that stands out maybe to us as a company a little bit is that conscious involvement with the community. I mean, getting involved with the chamber, with the EDA, giving T-shirts to the youth sports program, or anything you can do just to get your name out there, get involved, be seen and part of the community, and truly being that good corporate citizen to support the good programs that are going on in the community. And then, that kind of, for us, that led into the Tiger Paths program, not because of us, but because of a lot of good people in the community all kind of getting together. I would echo Brenda's part on housing. I mean, that would be huge. Anything with housing would be nice. Also childcare. If I had an open checkbook, I would get a child care center set up and make that a benefit program in my work, and I bet you that would solve a lot of my problems with getting people in here, because we have so many people here that struggle with childcare, and as a result of Tiger Paths and working with a lot of young people, we have a lot of young families, and I mean, getting childcare is hard, but try to get infant childcare. That's a real challenge. So those are some of the things that we see coming up down the road here to help attract a workforce, is to provide some solutions to housing, some solutions to childcare, those kinds of things. And I feel like business is going to have to step in and be part of that solution, or it's not going to necessarily happen.
That's a really good point, Eric. And I know the Southwest Initiative Foundation has been doing a lot of research and assistance in that area. So definitely reach out to the Southwest Initiative Foundation or your initiative foundation in your area as well to learn more about the daycare and housing issues in your community and how you can assist. Thanks, Eric. Tammy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. I'm going to echo a little bit what they said, but kind of a different tangent. I think the biggest thing for employers to do is really engage your key stakeholders inside your community. Your city, definitely initiative foundations. If First Children's Finance, anybody like that you can, if daycare is an issue, which that's one of the things on my bucket list in the next year or so, is is to open extended hour daycare. So very early in the morning, because that's what the work requires, right? And then in the evening hours. And that's not just specific to long crate packing. That's for the community, because a lot of the stuff that we do is community based, and it's around the rest of everybody else. So engaging all those stakeholders to do things like that is a really big deal. And on a housing front, I mean, you get your census back, and then you do your housing study, and a lot of the housing, like in Long Prairie in this area, is subsidized, and our employees make too much money to live in subsidized housing. So assessing market rate housing and the potential of being able to build that, or to get the right people together that can build that, is a big deal. I know there's a couple of them out there, Brenda, near your, what would it be, kind of on the north side of town. There's a couple of big complexes. So we just helped, we kind of assisted and almost basically banked one in Long Prairie. So it's the biggest apartment it's 3 stories high. It's the first 3-story high building in Long Prairie, Minnesota. So we have a 37 unit that opened on June 1st, and it was full in 6 weeks.
Our
But that's
second one is too.
Yes, they're full, right? And there's a waiting list. So, give it another year or two and kind of let the market settle a little bit and look at, what is housing looking like again, and do you do another one? I know where there's a lot of manufacturing, I know that there's a lot of landlords that charge more than what should be charged for rent. Long Prairie rent is comparable to Alexandria and maybe even a little higher. So that's definitely an opportunity, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, right? Because you're looking at the community at large, and you're really trying to get the right people in the right places to be successful. And that's not just a one day or a check the box type of thing. Those are multi-year initiatives that finally come to fruition. But the more employers that you have kind of on board to things like that in your community, the more successful you'll be.
Thanks so much, Tammy. Any questions out there at all from any of our attendees, or any follow-up that you would like to hear more about U-Skills training, or any of the other programs such as Tiger Path? Jess asked a great question out there, if there's interest for a follow-up session directly speaking about Tiger Path and some of the other programs that focus on youth and building that career pathways, which again, I really truly believe in. And that is something Brenda is pursuing. Not that they weren't already doing some of those programs, but we're actually going to do it in a grant form and get more assistance with that, and get some certifications for those youth that are in those programs as well. So at this time, go ahead, Brenda.
I was just going to say one thing to echo Eric when talking about childcare. One thing we did, we have in Sauk Center a first shift, a night shift, and then a weekend shift. And what we found is our weekend shift are a lot of parents who had childcare issues. And so they're able to stay home with their children during the week, and then they work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we've had great success with that. So if that's something that you do not have right now as a weekend shift, maybe look into that, because we have found great success, like I said, in several team members who love them. They get to stay home with their kids. There's no daycare costs. And then on the weekends they work. So obviously it's a little lifestyle change with if it's a 2-parent or 2 household. That way, but we've heard great success from our team members that really appreciate that opportunity. So
that's a really good point. And there's some employers out there too that will do the 3 12-hour shifts and pay for 40. So they work their 36 hours, they get paid for 40, they're full-time, they get all of the benefits, and they're working that Thursday through Sunday or Friday through Monday morning. And then they don't have to worry about that daycare. Excellent. Great point, Brenda.
So
So at
Della,
this
we did
time-
get a chat that came, or a question that came through chat. If we want to answer this one quick before we move on.
Absolutely.
Chip's asking if there are any examples of unique accommodations that have been implemented specifically for diverse associates or employees.
And Eric or Brenda or Tammy, any specifics that you guys do, especially with the language barrier, some of the things that maybe you do to make that person comfortable, you know, if they are not as fluent in English?
Well, definitely the hiring of translators. We also have everything inside of our facility. Our entire organization is translated. Yeah, everything, benefit materials, every posting, everything.
And we've had other manufacturers as well that they have an 800 number. So if there is any questions or concerns and they need to sit down and talk with their employees, they can call an 800 number that has that translator. So it doesn't need to be somebody directly on site at all times. You can also use that service as well. So very good point.
I found, and I can maybe put it on the link or I can send it to you later. I have a really awesome, it's called a CAT tool, computer animated translation, CAT, CAT, and online. So there's a lot of pay for services, right? You slam a Word document into the system and then it spits it back out in a foreign language, but you have to pay for it. There are free tools out there and they're very close. They're very close as far as translation. They're a lot better than Google Translate. So they come out in a really good format. And if you want it to be perfect because it's a legal document or it's your benefit materials or whatever, there is a pay for service as well on some of those sites. But you can actually get the quote and then you have somebody that's very competent and translate it and get it back to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Tammy. Any other questions out there from our group? Otherwise, is there any last words of advice, anything that you three hadn't had the opportunity to discuss that you would like to take the time to do so at this time? Well, all talked out. Sounds great. Like Dan had mentioned, he does have a presentation tomorrow if you want to learn more about youth skills training as well as the dual pipeline. And that link is in our chat. So feel free to follow that and attend that meeting as well for tomorrow. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jackie to finalize the meeting.
Well, thanks so much, Stella. And I just want to thank Brenda, Tammy, and Eric for their insightful information today. I really think for those that are listening to our session today, they've learned a lot of, gotten a lot of tips from you. So thank you so much. On behalf of the Workforce Strategy Consultant team, we want to invite you to next month's Workforce Wednesday, which is going to be held on November 3rd at 11 a.m. And it's going to be facilitated by Jessica O'Brien as our workforce strategy consultant in the southeast area of the state. And the topic is really going to be focused on engaging with our immigrant, refugee, and asylee populations in the areas of business as kind of a hidden talent pipeline or untapped talent pipeline. So we're really excited to have you join us, and we'll be sending out the registration link for that as well. With that, we are going to be moving to our unplugged session at 12 o'clock. And you'll be able to unmute and open up your cameras so that we can see you and better engage with the audience. So on behalf of the team, Chet Bodine, who services the Northwest area, Sean Herhusky, who services the Northeast area, Della, your facilitator and leader for today's session in the Central area, Jessica Miller in South Central and South West, and Jessica O'Brien in the Southeast, and Adeshewa Adesiji in the metro area. I want to thank you so much for your attention and your engagement today with this great panel of experts. So we will into the unplugged session to allow people who need to get back to work to leave, and then we'll move right into the 12 o'clock. Thanks.